Whoa! Alright, yeah. So when you load a save file in story mode, you actually start at the beginning of whatever set of cutscenes was right before the level that you're about to play. This made recording a really easy thing for me. I like this meta joke. Oh, so that's why your airships are boat shaped. Why are airships boat shaped in so many video games?
Probably for this reason, exactly.
Probably just because like they couldn't come up with anything better. I don't know. It doesn't really make much sense.
The real answer is that making the airships boat-shaped gives them a fantastical adventure-inspired feeling. It gives you the feeling of pirates and high adventure on the open seas, except it's the sky. You know, so it's I think it might go back as far as Dungeons and Dragons, possibly.
Which is so ingrained in our culture that I would think that in one day in our lives, if airships are ever a thing, they'll be boats.
Well, the closest thing to an airship we have is a blimp. Honestly, they work the same way, you know. So,
but they're so bulky.
Yeah, well, they're gonna have to be bulky if you want them to float and carry that much stuff and not go too fast.
No. I want my really elaborate boats that manage to fly with like one propeller.
Well, John, the laws of physics are gonna have a word with you.
Has that been a problem?
Knowing John, whenever that happens, he's just gonna play the Highwind theme whenever he flies on one.
Highwind? No, come on. Fucking Falcon theme, Blackjack, Enterprise.
So, is there supposed to be like a subplot where Carol is jealous of Mila or something? Because I felt like that's what this scene was supposed to be getting at, but it doesn't really happen.
No, jealousy isn't the thing. The subplot with Carol is more that Carol isn't as altruistic as Lilac is. She's also not as girly, but she and Lilac have been together since forever ago, and they're best friends. Carol is really attached to Lilac and wants to spend time with her, but Lilac is, little Miss Hero Pants, as Carol puts it, and keeps, running headlong into danger. So this is putting some strain on their relationship.
Yeah, it does go to the altruism a bit here. Carol has a bit of a gangster upbringing.
Yeah, and that specific cutscene was there mostly so that Lilac could make an offhand remark about how Carol isn't all that girly. So yeah, like Mila wants to spend time with all three of them, but Lilac's like, well, we could invite her along, but I don't think she would do much with us.
This is a fragment of one of Brevon's.
Wow, I just had that stuck up my ass the entire time.
You truly are an alien.
I'm a what?
Now, I actually like this sequence of events that plays after they get thrown in prison, where, okay, it turns out that Lilac, Carol, and Mila are collectively powerful enough to just bust out of prison very easily, but they were hesitant to do so because they couldn't just run off and leave Torque behind, but Torque was being held somewhere else. So they had to they had to basically bend over backwards to get Torque out so that they could break out normally. It's just kind of hilarious.
It does result in a lot of talking in these cutscenes, but I do feel like the characters are at least trying to come up with plans and being intelligent, as opposed to the entire thing just happening to work out due to coincidence, Like, again, like, it's smart that she wouldn't trust these guys. These guys clearly would ask them for help and so on and so forth. Yeah. So I never felt like that anybody was stupid unless the character was clearly supposed to be stupid,
Yeah, unless it was Gong or Zhao.
Yeah, basically,
yeah. The upshot, though, is that, I like, this is just a personal thing, but I like lead characters in fiction that are clever first, powerful second. So, what I really like is a character essentially like Sherlock Holmes. That
explains a lot.
Yeah. So, when I see a character that's, good at fighting, but also comes up with clever ideas to get out of binds without fighting, I tend to take to that character pretty quickly. And one of the things that I like about Lilac here is that when they're stuck in prison and they can't leave Torque behind, she's the one who comes up with the idea to make a confession. She comes up with this idea seemingly on the spot to make a confession and trick the Magister into thinking that they were lying and had shanghaied Shellduck Man into doing their bidding. So they actually trick the Magister into letting Torque go and then break out themselves, which I thought was really clever. It kind of loses points on the merits of this kind of drawn out story sequence, again, not being fitting for this type of game. But,
yeah,
you know.
right here, we were talking about this beforehand, but this is a part where Mila really should have had a level. Because she's...
Well, that's the thing. That's the thing. The aesthetic here for the prison is from Aqua Tunnel.
Yeah.
So I think maybe the original intention was to have Mila dig herself out and then do Aqua Tunnel and then have the other cutscene proceeding afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's very strange that they didn't do that. Maybe they just designed Aqua Tunnel and realized it was too goddamn easy for this point in the game. I don't know.
Well, if it's the first level where you play as Mila, it probably was intended to be her tutorial level from the start. So, I don't know. Like,
yeah, but there's no other point in the game where you're forced to play as another character in another character's campaign.
There's no real story significance to Aqua Tunnel at the beginning of Mila's game. The beginning of Mila's game is literally she's wandering around doing some stuff, and she happens to run into Carol in Relic Maze when the place is caving in, and saves Carol, and that's how they meet. And that's the only important thing that happens at the beginning, as far as Mila is concerned. Aqua Tunnel being there is just awkward placement.
Doesn't Mila not have a story mode, or is that only on console?
She didn't have a story mode initially. She has a story mode now, but you have to get to a certain point in the other two characters' story mode to unlock it.
Okay, so, because if I remember correctly, at least on Wii U, you can play as Mila, but only in classic mode? Or does...
At the beginning, you can play as Mila in classic mode, and you can only select from Lilac and Carol at the start. But since I had already gotten to a certain point in story mode here, when I started the game, if you go back to part 1, you'll notice that when I started the game, it actually showed me all 3 characters.
Okay, so you can. Okay, all right. Now I get it. Sorry about that.
Yeah, you just need to make progress as one of the main 2 characters before you can play as Mila.
Okay. And then she'll have her own cutscenes and all that stuff. Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of a soft lock on Mila's gameplay. Like, you can play as her in adventure mode all you want, obviously, but you're probably going to go to story mode first. And seeing that you can't select Mila right away, you're going to know just from that Mila's game is probably a bit harder than the other 2. So you're probably going to save it for later. It's not too forced, but.
And at this point, since Torque's just in beta, he doesn't have a story mode at all.
Yeah, he doesn't have a story mode yet.
Too much.
Okay.
Yeah.
Busting out of here will be a piece of crab cake.
Why crab cake specifically?
I don't know anybody who even likes crab cakes.
Well, crab cakes are good. I like crab cakes more than actually eating crab out of the shell because I hate breaking open the shells. But that's a complicated kind of cake. I'm just saying, if you were trying to say it was going to be easy.
She is a woman of taste.
Oh my gosh, floating on dandelions, such a Mario Galaxy ripoff. Jeez.
I like this level. It's one of my favorites in the game. Just aesthetically and design-wise, it's got a lot going for it.
There's a lot of cool sections really in this level. I will agree. It's just I don't know, the aesthetic doesn't do much for me, at least this part. It's just kind of like a darker Dragon Valley, like rocks.
Well,
and
yeah,
grass.
it's somewhat connected to Dragon Valley, and I think that's intentional because the version of Dragon Valley that's in the Freedom Planet 2 demo has a lot of Jade Creek going on. So I think it's implied that these are the generally the same geographic location, just different parts of it.
Well, these guys live around here because they don't live near the thieves anymore, so it would make sense.
It also makes sense because Dragon Valley was close by the temple where the Kingdom Stone was being kept, which belongs to this kingdom, so it's all generally the same mountainous area around the kingdom.
Ooh, I never noticed that you could see the water, like the water line from underneath before. When you're underneath
there's
the water.
a sort of pseudo 3D effect going on with the water surface, so that you can see it.
You could probably do that on Sega Genesis, but I bet it would lag the game like crazy.
Or you could have very little in the background.
There were only a few games that did that kind of thing on the Sega Genesis itself without the 32X or the Sega CD to back it up. I think like one of them was The Adventures of Batman and Robin, which had some really crazy 3D effects going on that wowed me as a kid.
Yeah, I was surprised they were able to do all that on that game.
Yeah. Yeah, you are right, though, now that I look more at it, that this is clearly something that's aiming for a Saturn, PlayStation 1 kind of graphical style. Because actually, looking at the way, especially a lot of the enemies are designed, I do get a lot of Rayman 1 vibes. Like, not really exactly, because like they're nowhere near the same type of game. But, you know, some enemies do remind me of Rayman 1 a lot. Maybe it's just the floating balls or something. I don't know.
Speaking of floating balls, the bubble mechanic is great, but it pisses me the fuck off that they gave Lilac a spin jump animation, but didn't let you use it.
Honestly, again, I know it's one of those things. I like that you can't just jump into enemies because it does make it feel more like its own game.
Oh,
You know, you can't just jump into stuff like it's Sonic. You have to use the Cyclone or hit stuff, or Dragon Dash and everything, which is what I usually did. But whatever.
Well, the Dragon Dash comes with its own drawback, though. Namely that
I still don't understand why you can't go straight down or up with it.
Well, there's that too, but I was actually getting more at the charge time, constantly slowing you down when you're exploring.
I get why you can't go straight up with it, because that would break some levels. But straight down, I don't really get, because that shouldn't break anything. So
would it break stuff? Because considering Lilac to a degree has some momentum base control, going straight up wouldn't really get you anywhere. If
you can move yourself slightly afterwards, though, is the thing. Like after a Dragon Dash, if you want to move backwards, you can. So you do maintain some level of control after the animation ends, of course. So you could probably get up onto ledges that you really weren't supposed to if you could go straight up. Or at least you could do stuff more easily than the game might have wanted you to. So, it's kind of common in those sorts of things to not let you go straight up.
Well, there was they could also have given you the ability to go straight up, but gimped the dash's distance when you do.
That could have worked, yeah.
The thing that I really would have wanted to see is the ability to Dragon Dash directly downward into a stomp attack, though.
That would be cool, yes.
Yeah. And make like a shockwave on the way down.
Yeah, I think it would have been a good way to give Lilac a high damage option for certain enemies later in the game, namely the soldiers that they spam at you during Final Dreadnought, that she doesn't really have as good a time taking down as the other characters.
So the thing that does the most damage against bosses is just starting the Dragon Dash on their hit spot, right? And then doing that multiple hits. Does that do the most damage, or does standard swipes do more damage than that?
I think besides the Dragon Dash in the middle of their hitbox, there is also Lilac's Smash Brothers moves, essentially.
Yeah, her Shoryuken and her downward kick.
Her uppercut, the downward kick, those do a lot of damage. They're just a little awkward to hit with.
Get comfortable, kids. We're going to be here for a while.
Yeah, she gives me a lot of trouble all the time. I mean, she's very pattern-based.
Every boss in this game has a pattern, which I do appreciate. It's not, random.
She's also the first of two bosses, the other being our second round with Dale, who actually used the shield power-ups, which is cool. In the same sort of way that seeing Bowser use the cat power-up in Mario 3D World was.
A lot of the bosses that are also whatever animals they are use the shields. I believe Dale uses a shield later as well, and it's just they live in this same world, so they all would be able to do that. It'd be I don't know if in a Sonic fight...
It's funny because it acknowledges the power-ups as actually existing within the story rather than just being a gameplay thing.
Yeah.
Which lends a bit of whimsy to the proceedings.
You want to know what it reminds me of? In Sonic Generations, when you fight Shadow, the end of the fight is just him losing all of his rings and then dying. It reminds me of that.
But
this game, if you're impatient, you're gonna hate Freedom Planet, because if you want to just go in and swipe all the time, you're gonna die. I
keep jumping into projectiles that are coming at me from off screen, but I really shouldn't be hitting them. I have no one to blame but myself, because if I had been a bit more careful, I wouldn't have run into that.
I do also like that you're taken back to jail when you die in the near boss fight. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a clever little extra death animation. Like all of her attacks are designed to freeze you when you get killed. So you don't actually get killed, you just get captured.
Which is a joke they do twice in this area in particular. So.
Yeah.
Because I believe she gets frozen and carried off when she dies as well.
Immediately after saying freeze. Yeah.
Not Nira's proudest moment. I hope they
No.
reference that in Freedom Planet 2 as something super embarrassing. She did that one time.
Well, they probably would need to give her some comic relief because she's the no-nonsense character in this game.
I just want to see Lilac sass her about it at some point. Like some friendly banter now that they're working on the same side, maybe.
Okay, so here's a question. Do you think that, like, eventually that there could be too many characters in this kind of game? Like, because in Freedom Planet 2, like, there's going to be 4 at the very least, and if they add more, do you think that there could be a chance that, you know, like, you would get tired of the game by the time you're playing character 5 or 6 if they get that far?
You know, that's a very individualized thing. Like,
Yeah.
oh, God damn it. You know, some people want to play all that they can of a specific game in one go, which is, I don't think, something that's particularly a good idea in Freedom Planet's case. I think the additional characters are better experienced as a different way to play through the game several months after you beat it, you know? I don't necessarily think it's a good idea to play through as Lilac and then play through as Carol the next day, and then play through as Mila the next day, and then play as Torque the day after that.
That said, when I was recording it for the review, I didn't find myself exhausted. Like,
Well,
even after, well, I mean, a little at the tail end of Mila's
You also
playthrough, but that was for different
You also
reasons.
take better to the combat aspect of the game, from what I saw.
Yeah,
of your review.
the combat is not something I was ever good at.
I'm kind of really goddamn terrible at the combat in this game, which frustrates me because I really like games like Dusty and Elysian Tale, and that kind of thing. But those games have a bit more polish and flow to the combat in particular, whereas this is kind of a little too loose to really master, and I get a little frustrated
To
with
me,
the
with
enemy
the
spam later on.
getting grips on the combat is one thing. The lack of reaction to your combat is another thing.
Yeah, it's
Because again, this character is just taking all your hits and is able to attack through your attacks.
Yeah, that's a recurring problem. There aren't very many enemies that flinch when you hit them, and that means you know, if you attack at slightly the wrong moment, you take a bit of punishment yourself, and there's no real way to cancel out of something. Those kind of refined techniques that you would get in a more dedicated action game aren't here. And you know, it's by itself it's not really that big of a problem, but together with the other small issues the game's design has, it leads to that fatiguing problem that I said I had with this game. I don't like to play Freedom Planet multiple times in a single week. I play through it once and then I put it down. That's where my enjoyment threshold for this game is. I'm hoping Freedom Planet 2 is a bit more easy for me to come back to again and again and again in a short span of time.
The key to these bosses really is hit and run. If you try to stay and get extra hits and try to be greedy about it, you're gonna take damage and lose all your health instantly. So, which means leads to a lot of a lot of dodging, which
some
isn't
context.
always the most.
I'm tired.
Some context for that pause. Well, while I was playing this game, I was having some problems with a new pair of glasses. Specifically, they wouldn't stay on my goddamn face. They kept sliding down my nose, and I kept having to adjust them, and that gave me a lot of annoyance.
I forgot to feed them, and they've been rebellious ever since.
That gave me a lot of annoyance during the Nira boss fight, so I was actually dying a bit more than I probably would have normally. But, I mean, I'm still trash at fighting Nira, don't get me wrong. I'm not making an excuse for that, but it was an additional problem on top of the trouble I was already having. I actually got these little rubber ear hook things for my glasses that keep them on my face, because I couldn't think of anything else to do to solve the problem. But yeah, me pausing there was me stopping to push my glasses up my nose, and I forgot to cut it out. I'm sorry.
Well, now we know.
Yeah, you were just being an anime character. It's fine.
Ugh.
You're the guy that always dresses glasses.
It's not even that. Like, my glasses fall so far down my nose they're on the verge of actually falling off my face. So it doesn't look cool. It just looks awkward.
You need to get them adjusted.
That's actually one of my pet peeves when it just comes to like characters with glasses in anime. They always got that pushing it back into their face anime. Get some glasses that fucking fit, for Christ's
Yeah,
sake.
but also those glasses have so much glare. You know, you so much as look kind of downwards on them. Their entire eyes are covered. Interesting. Yes.
All according to Keikaku.
Oh God.
No,
You
thank
see,
you, I just ate.
it's really weird that I'm the only person in BrainScratch who doesn't need glasses, because it feels like I'm the only person in every group of friends that I have. I'm the only one who has good eyesight.
No, but you took all of my hair.
I took your hair and your eyesight. So
Yeah.
Ah.
Jade Creek Act 2 is one of my favorite tracks in the game. I love it.
I do like the submarine thing that's going on in the latter half. If there's oh, hi Nira, bye Nira.
On to the level.
She actually does damage you if she hits you with that. By the way.
I think you did take some damage there.
Yeah.
Very small amount, but yeah.
Yeah. One thing that even with the length problem that I have with this game, one thing that I really appreciate about the levels is that as you go through them, the aesthetic changes, the level design elements change. There's a lot of variety within each level.
Yeah, it is. This level. Like you're at 12 minutes now. Like that's Sonic Heroes level length. But thankfully the levels have more variety and are just more fun to play than Sonic Heroes. So I don't get.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things when the base gameplay is more fun, you don't mind the levels being as long, but still, it's just a little bit exhausting, because if, for example, you want to call it a day, you can't stop between acts, you can't stop at the end of Act 1 and pick up the end of with Act 2 tomorrow. You need to play until the end of the zone, or level.
Well, you can't do that in the 2D Sonic games either, now that I think about it, because the save files only start you off in Act 1.
You know what? I might be. I have more experience with the handheld 2Ds, but I think
Sonic Heroes is the. I think Sonic Heroes is the only game that lets you resume from an Act 2.
I believe Rush and Advance lets you do that as well, but it's been a while since I played either of those, or at least the story. No, I play Rush semi-frequently, but not the story mode, because the story sucks. So, the only thing that could make the cutscenes in that are about as long as they are here. It's just you're reading the entire time instead of listening. So,
are you ready for another hour of Blaze the Cat being Cream the Rabbit's tsundere best friend?
Yeah, but I'm
I'm
like 90% sure, at least in advance, that you can stop between acts, because
these enemies right here.
Yeah.
These
I hate these guys. Yeah.
are the worst.
They have so much health is also the problem. You have to hit them like 6 times for them to die.
Some of them need to be knocked down 3 times to die as well. It's strange. I don't understand how they work.
If they weren't so bulky, they wouldn't be as big of a problem. And for endgame, they should have harder enemies. It's just, it feels like you can't kill them as Lilac.
It's also that they kind of swarm you in places, and then they start blasting lasers at you. And yeah, you can run through the soldiers themselves without suffering touch damage, but when they're when the ground is covered in laser beams that won't stop flowing, you're going to hit one of them.
Yeah, if there's 5 on the ground at any point, by the time if you're just going to try to run through them, the one all the way on the right will shoot at you by the time you get to him.
Oh, God damn it.
Get fucked.
I hate Serpentine's goddamn Devil May Cry juggle.
Yeah, I mean, what rank was that combo?
Triple S.
I think you just clipped through one of his laser beams there, too.
Shit boxes, son.
And the game gives you a pity shield right before the fight.
A water shield, which is the most useless type of shield for this kind of situation.
The moon is so blue.
Oh, I hate that freaking airship there. I hate it so much.
Yeah, they meant that to be a boss that would kick your ass, too. They set it up like a whole 2 levels in advance.
The worst thing is you fight it twice, too.
Actually, for as gamey as the boss fights are conceptually, one of the things that I really like is that, like, almost every boss fight in the game, aside from the random-ass mantis monster, has some kind of story significance or setup to it. Like
for the major bosses, yes.
Yeah. Serpentine is a recurring character. that you fight like twice and then becomes a mutant toward the end. And then there's the big ass sky tank that gets set up 2 levels in advance and is like this really important weapon in Brevon's army. And there's Prince Dale's got 2 boss fights. God damn it!
That happened to me so much, so don't worry. At least they give you a little bit of pity health, but like that's like 1 hit.
This is also a thing about the late game bosses, is that a lot of them stop giving you health pickups. And it's slightly uneven too. Like some of the bosses in the late game give you health pickups, but then there's this one which gives you 3 1/2 point health pickups when you beat Serpentine at the beginning of the fight, and nothing else.
I would say that Jade Creek is probably the first big difficulty spike in the game. The first 4 levels are pretty comfortable. This is
strictly because of the bosses.
Yeah,
the levels.
Not so much of the
level
itself,
is fine. The
yeah.
bosses the bosses from this point on just get really goddamn painful to fight.
Yeah, it's specifically because like you've got Nira and this fight, both of which aren't easy, and then almost all of the bosses from this point, with the exception of Syntax, I think Syntax wasn't that bad.
The worst part about this boss, though, is it's actually 2 really hard boss fights. You have the goddamn helicopter thing, which has some really devious weapon patterns. And then you've got Serpentine, who, instead of being a pushover like the last time you fought him in a character battle, suddenly is just, like, really fast and vicious, and goddamn, what happened?
It's the like, if you get caught in his juggle, that's half your health gone. But I find it a lot harder to dodge his lasers and the raining lasers in this fight as opposed to the earlier one, and they're pretty similar attacks too.
It's like, it's not even a problem that these bosses are too hard for me. It's more like I would have appreciated these bosses a bit more if there was a bit more of a gradual climb to this level of difficulty before now. This level is the first point in the game where I start to have trouble with the bosses, but it's also the first point in the game where I start to have a lot of trouble with the bosses.
Yeah, it feels like this boss should probably have been a level or 2 later than it actually is. And Mila,
I stand corrected.
Clutch.
Mila actually announces her arrival in battle by throwing you a health power-up. That's
here,
nice
bitch.
of her. And like I said, Mila and Carol just coming out of nowhere to help you when you're in dire straits really meant a lot to me. I felt like honestly, genuinely relieved when they jumped into the fight and things started to turn in my favor after that. I'm not really sure.
Helping.
I'm not really sure what Mila thinks she's shooting her laser at there, but
I also, as a nice little detail, I like how the victory music doesn't play when you beat this level, and everybody isn't like pumped. They're just like, phew, thank God that's over. You know?
Yeah.
Like, it fits the mood really well.
Yeah.
Although you're going to ruin it by getting a bonus game. Oh, wait, no, never mind. There was like 10 seconds left. I thought you had a bonus game, but there's a cutscene.
Yeah, the cutscenes here actually transitions directly into somber.
Well, shit.
Wasn't this a fun, happy-go-lucky game, guys?
Yeah. So, cooties, am I right?